franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Now, News Talk Radio CJAD 800 gives you passion with Dr. Lori Petito. What you need to get your relationship to the next level. Here's Lori.
Good evening. Kelly Alexander sitting in for Dr. Lori Petito on Passion all this week long. Thank you so much for joining us. And seeing as how it's my first time on CJAD in the new year, I'd like to take a moment to wish you and yours all the best with health, happiness, and success for 2016. So joined tonight by a very special guest that has happened to be on Passion many times over the last couple of years. And we're very happy to have him in tonight. Frank Kermit. Hello, Frank.
Hello, Kelly. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year to you. And I know that, Passion or longtime Passion listeners definitely know who you are. But if you are tuning in for the first time to Passion, you are a dating and relationship coach. You are an author of over 10 books and 50 audio lectures. And you are the relationship columnist for the Suburban newspaper website. And people can find you on franktalks.com.
Thank you.
There we go. So we've got a lot to get to tonight. I know that we're going to start off with some questions that you received through Facebook, lots of relationship questions and sort of, I think, getting people off to the right start in the new year, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then also, I know a little bit later, we're actually going to talk about sort of the new year and again, trying to be, I guess, kicking it off in the right fashion, with regards to relationships and how you're going to handle yourself over the course of the next 12 months.
Hopefully, for many people, 2016 is going to be their year for love, their year for dating, their year for romance. Mm-hmm. But it starts with you. You have to start taking some action and getting prepared to make this your year of love.
It's funny. I've had a lot of people over the last couple of days say that 2016 is like the year for everyone. I've never had everyone always say, or this many people, I should say, sort of preface a year like this. So I'm hoping we're right. I hope that 2016 is going to be the jam, if you will.
I think it's understandable given that 2015 had so many horrific, violent happenings that everybody is more than aware of. Right. And this is just a start of a fresh beginning. Yeah. And a lot of hope. Yeah, definitely. And hope is good. Excellent. Hope is a great motivator. Mm-hmm. Now let's take some action and make that hope happen. Excellent.
Now, if you want to reach Frank, by the way, he's obviously on the show with me tonight until 11 o'clock. So you can reach him by phone here at 514-790-0800. And of course, by text at 514-800. And we'd love if you put your first name in the text. That would be great. So Frank, you ready to kick things off?
Yep. What's the first text we got?
All right, let's do this. So you had a message come in asking for tips or advice for creating and maintaining long-term, steady, secondary polyamorous relationships. Apparently, this person has been hurt one too many times in this area and was wondering, how people make it work. And can you start off by explaining polyamorous?
Polyamorous means that you are in a serious, committed relationship with more than one person at the same time. Okay. Whereas monogamy is when you get into a serious relationships with somebody, you have to end that relationship before you can start another relationship with someone else. At least that's the way it's supposed to be. Right. Okay. In polyamory, however, it's not just serious relationships, but all form of relationships that can happen at the same time. Sometimes you need your partner's consent. Sometimes you don't. It really depends on the level of commitment you have negotiated. Okay. And that's what polyamory is. The opportunity to negotiate the kind of relationship you want, setting limits and boundaries as you need them. Okay. Now you have the primary relationship, which would be your main relationship, your default relationship, the person who has the most commitment from you. And then you have secondary partners. These are the partners that you are involved with in some way, in some capacity, but if ever there's a time limit, a family function, if there's ever something going on, your primary partner takes precedence over your secondaries. Okay. I see this a lot. I do have some couples and some group relationships that do come in for coaching. And the big question is, how do you manage all these relationships? How do you even find the time? So here's the answer for anybody who wants to manage secondary relationships. It all starts with how you define your primary relationship. Once you've defined your primary relationship, you will know how to manage your secondary relationship. One of the biggest problems I see is that people refuse to be too rigid in defining what is a primary relationship.
Okay.
So the questions I'll ask are something along the lines of, who would you have children with? You're dating a bunch of people. That's great. That's wonderful. Who are you going to have children with? Who are you going to invest with in terms of buying property, buying a car, building a future? Who are you planning to retire with? Once you start looking at these type of questions, the person who you would consider your primary easily becomes identified. And if no one is identified as a primary partner at that point, then it just means you don't have a primary partner. You could be seeing a number of different people, but just because you've been seeing somebody longer than you've been seeing someone else doesn't automatically make that first person a primary. It's about the nature of the commitment. So just spell out very clearly what you will and will not do. It's about what time you're going to put in, the level of commitment you're going to be putting in, the level of attention, and certain guidelines as to will you be attending family functions with this person or not. That'll help you define a secondary relationship.
Is it easy to get into trouble with this type of arena? Because I don't know if the general sort of population has that sort of idea, like they say they can be fine in being with someone who's in a bunch of different relationships, but then when it comes down to it, doesn't jealousy kick in at some point?
Absolutely, jealousy can kick in, and yes, you can get into a lot of trouble if you don't communicate with your primary partner.
Okay.
Once you communicate with your primary partner, and I'm assuming that you already have a primary partner and are going to, you're both decided to seek out secondary partners. Communicate with your primary partner, and all those things that you're thinking, but maybe I shouldn't say this because it's going to hurt my partner. Those are exactly the things you need to say.
Wow.
And that's what makes it challenging. But most people who choose to be polyamorous, they're doing it not just because they want to go out and date and go out and have fun. They're doing it because they don't want to be a monogamous person who cheats.
Right.
They want to do it honorably. They want to be honest about it. Their attitude is, why cheat when we can be honest about it? If we want to go out and see other people, let's just set some parameters here about what you are comfortable with, I'm comfortable with. Some couples I know have a veto. That means that each person in the primary relationship gets to say, no, you can't date that specific person. They are a threat to our relationship, or I don't like them, or whatnot. Some relationships don't have that kind of veto power. It's all negotiable. But you have to step up and negotiate, and these conversations are not easy to have. But it's a lot better than claiming to be in a monogamous relationship, doing something on the side, and then, lo and behold, somebody gets hurt.
Right. In your experience, as a dating coach and someone in this arena, can polyamorous relationships actually be a way of life for...
At least when it comes to my client base. A relationship that ends badly doesn't end badly because it's polyamorous or monogamous. It ends badly because the couple just weren't a good fit for each other.
Okay.
I have seen polyamory help save relationships because they have to tackle things like jealousy head on. They have to become much more open-minded. So certain expectations that a couple had when they were monogamous change when they become polyamorous.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it automatically makes it better. What it means is, for some people, they may be better suited for one relationship structure over the other. Some people are really good with monogamy, okay? They're happy being monogamous. They don't feel they're missing out. In fact, it addresses their emotional needs. For those people, I say, continue to be monogamous, find a monogamous partner who feels the same way.
Right.
And some people just don't work well in monogamy. So they have to choose. Do I pretend to be in a monogamous relationship and lie and cheat and do things that I don't want to do? Or am I going to try polyamory and be honest? And yes, sometimes being honest about being polyamorous will actually cost you the opportunity to date some people. Well, c'est la vie. You're not going to get anybody, and it's better to break up right away and not waste your time and not get hurt than it is to try and date somebody and try to convert somebody.
We're coming up against the traffic break, but before we go, Frank, I did want to ask, with regards to polyamory, does it work if you have kids?
It can work if you have kids, but my advice to anybody who has kids and is practicing any type of open relationship is that no matter what, the kids come first. The kid's protection comes first, or the kid's privacy comes first. This may mean something like if either one of the couple has a secondary partner, maybe you don't expose the child to the secondary partner. And again, this works from couple to couple, from family to family. But the general rule is your kids' safety and your kids' privacy always comes first.
Coming up on Passion, we are going to talk a little bit about May-December romances. So that's coming up.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Petito on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
10:18. Minus 17 right now in downtown Montreal, minus 24 though with the wind chill in downtown Montreal. It's Kelly Alexander in for Dr. Lori Petito tonight and for the rest of the week. Thank you so much for joining us on Passion. We appreciate it very much. Joined tonight by dating and relationship coach Frank Kermit. Again, he's the relationship columnist for the Suburban newspaper website, and you can find him at franktalks.com. So Frank, we've been taking some questions from Facebook and from your website. And I wanted to get to this one. My boyfriend has been spending a lot of time communicating with an old female friend from high school. We've been together for a little over 4 years, so we have a lot of trust in each other, but I feel as if this is wrong of him. She's also asked him to come out clubbing with her and some friends, and she's also sent him pictures of herself in a short dress. I'm concerned.
I think you're right to be concerned, not because the boyfriend has done anything wrong per se.
Yep.
However, it's okay to be protective of your relationship. And something we were discussing just before that last break was how some couples will have a veto. So my first comment is, has she expressed this concern to her boyfriend and pointed out and said, she knows you're with me. She knows you're in a serious relationship. Inviting you clubbing probably is a sign that she may be interested in something more than friendship.
I would go with that.
So, it's like, honey, I really don't like this. And if you are in a solid relationship, you should be able to have any conversation.
Okay.
And if you're afraid to talk to your boyfriend about this because you don't know how he's going to react and so on, that's the red flag.
Right.
Not that somebody is after him. Look, folks, no matter how good your relationship is with somebody, there's always going to be someone else trying to pursue you or your partner. It's going to happen. The best way to deflect that is to have a completely open communication with your partner and to be the kind of partner that can handle the truth.
Right.
If you're going to freak out every time somebody made a pass at my partner, well, your partner is going to become reluctant to be honest about these things.
Right.
So take it as a compliment when somebody hits on your partner and just let your partner know, hey, I'm really not comfortable with you talking with that person because that person's expressed a romantic interest knowing that we were in a relationship. So could you cool off the communication? And that's what I would suggest. What
happens if, this woman here that wrote in that she's concerned over her boyfriend, what happens if she tries to pull the, you need to stop talking to her, or I'm out of here or whatever, like the her or me situation? I feel like that is always the beginning of the end, because I feel like you cannot tell someone, you can't talk to this one, you can't talk to that one. Now, hopefully he would be smart and realize, especially if he loves her so much, reconnecting with this old flame is probably not the best idea. So hopefully he would figure that out on his own. But I also don't think someone wants to be told, you can't talk to this one, you can't talk to that one. Like, I know if I was in those shoes, I'd be like, you can't tell me what to do.
Yes, you're right that some people don't like to be told what to do. However, sometimes ultimatums in relationships are necessary to enforce a boundary.
Okay.
Look, she has a boundary here. Okay. And the boundary is, if somebody is making advances to you, I would rather they not communicate to you. And maybe what she can offer in return is, if any guy was interested in me, I would immediately tell him, no thanks. And if he continues to pursue me, that's where I will simply block communication with that person.
Right.
So ultimatums sometimes are necessary to make your partner realize just how important something is to you. The only thing is you can't use ultimatums all the time.
Right.
You can't constantly threaten. It's either this or I'm leaving. It's either this or I'm leaving. It's either this or I'm leaving. If you're constantly uttering ultimatums,
right,
that's the sign that you're really with the wrong person, or you just have a complete communication breakdown.
Okay. Now, Frank, I know you said you had a message just come in from overseas, I think.
Yep, we got a message coming here. I'm on Facebook, so if for anybody who's on one of my Facebook pages, you can send me a PM. This question comes from Japan, one of my followers in Japan. My question is, after going through some traumatic breakups, what is the best way to find peace from it all and to move on from it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't say the person's name. We're going to keep that confidential. But I want you to listen to me very carefully. You have to make meaning from the last breakup you had. Okay? In every breakup, in every traumatic event that happens in your life, there's something for you to learn. And whatever that lesson is, that's the lesson you have to learn. Otherwise, you're destined to repeat that same mistake in future relationships. So once you've learned your lesson, and the lesson could simply be, I missed these 7 red flags, and that's why I ended up with my ex, but now I know never to date somebody that is exhibiting these red flags. If that's the lesson you take from the relationship, once you can trust yourself not to make the same mistake again, once you can trust yourself that you have internalized the lesson,
Mm-hmm.
Self-forgiveness happens automatically, and that's how you heal from a broken heart.
If you'd like to speak to Frank here on Passion on CJAD, very simple, 514-790-0800 by phone and 514-800 by text, and we'd appreciate if you'd put your first name in the text. So, Frank, we had another one come in here. Is it really okay for a 48-year-old female to go out with a 32-year-old mature/sensible guy? I don't have a big issue with age gaps, but this seems like quite a big one. Is it doomed to end in disaster?
Yes, it is okay. Your love life is nobody's business as long as you are dealing with other consenting adults. With that said, what are your goals? What are his goals?
Mm-hmm.
If his goal is one day to settle down, get married, and have children of his own, and you're in a stage of your life where that is not even something on your radar or even possible,
Mm-hmm.
then you can predict that this is a temporary relationship. Enjoy it for whatever time it lasts, but don't get too serious with it. If, however, his goals and your goals actually line up pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
and you're both actually mature enough and self-aware enough to know what it is you both want and they match, then your age will not be a factor. Go for it.
Frank, when it comes to this, because in a way this is kind of like a May-December romance, if we can put it that way.
Right.
I know that there's so many times that it's a younger female with an older guy, and it seems like those relationships seem to last or run the course, especially because if there is a desire for children, it's an easier option, in that scenario. But if you do flip it and it is an older female with a younger male, do those relationships tend to actually stay the course and work out over like decades?
More so in our modern time than any other time before.
Okay.
Okay. Prior to, let's say, the last 5 to 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time when you had an older woman and a younger man, we could very well predict that this is just not going to last because at some point he's going to want to have children. Now we're living in a time where you have a lot of older women getting out of relationships, they're divorced, they have had their family, and you have a lot of younger men who have already decided for themselves they never want to get married, although they want to date,
Mm-hmm.
and they never want to have children.
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunities have increased, the expectations have increased. The stigma is not there as much. I don't want to say there's no stigma,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not there as much. Older men and younger women have always been a little bit more accepted because of the issue of the biological clock. That relationship still could produce children, so the threat of abandonment isn't as pronounced.
Okay.
When you reverse it,
Mm-hmm.
if the guy in the situation who's younger even wants, let's be clear, the guy may not necessarily want to have children, but some men want the option. They just want to be in a situation where they have the option to have kids
Right.
if they change their mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if a guy says, I'm open to having children, I'm just not decided, that means that he wants the option. And that's a predictor that when he's dating an older woman, chances are it may not last.
Okay.
Because he's undecided as to whether or not he wants to have kids. So for any older woman listening to this, if you want to have a serious relationship with a younger man, look for a man who's very clear about, I don't want children, or if he has children, I don't want any more children. That's your shot to making it work.
Our guest tonight on Passion is Frank Kermit, a dating and relationship coach. Much more coming up on the show, including top dating resolutions for 2016. My name is Kelly Alexander, sitting in for Dr. Lori Betito this week on Passion. Much more coming up on CJAD.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things.
This is Passion with Dr. Lori Betito on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Good evening. Kelly Alexander sitting in for Dr. Lori Betito all this week on Passion. Thank you so much for joining us. And my guest tonight, my special guest on the show, is Frank Kermit, a dating and relationship coach, author of over 10 books. He's also the relationship columnist for the Suburban newspaper website, and you can learn all about him on his website, franktalks.com. Frank, I know you had another message come in. We've been taking messages sort of all night long from Facebook, and another one's come in?
Yeah, well, this time it comes from Australia, and the gentleman is asking, how do I communicate what it is I have to offer when I want to get a girl interested in me? Should I tell her that I can help her with her CV, for example? Okay. First of all, there is a difference between demonstrating that you bring value to a relationship in terms of the type of person you are and the principles you believe in that you live by, and simply saying, oh, I could do this for you. Oh, I could do that for you. Oh, I could do this for you. You don't get somebody interested in you by saying, I can wash your car, I'll pay for your bus pass, and I'll also cover your rent.
Right.
Because you're just inviting people to use you. And you don't do that. You do not invite people to use you. What you can communicate is things like, these are the ways that I will live my life. These are the principles that guide me. I believe in X, I believe in Y, and I believe in Z. And I'm looking to build a particular type of future. Talk about even where you want to retire to, because it'll give a person an idea of your value system. Talk about things like, if you're looking for a serious relationship, you want to talk about things like situations of how you would raise your kids. Hypothetical situations where you can say, what would you do if you were a parent in this situation?
And Frank, is that for like an online dating profile, what you're talking about? Or because it sounds like this person that wrote to you, does he have someone now, or he's just putting it out there that he wants to let them know that he can do this, that, and something else for them?
I would assume that the person is asking the question doesn't have anyone in his life right now.
Okay.
So if you're putting it on an online dating profile, you don't talk about what you can do for a person, because you're just talking about, hey, this is all the different ways that you can use me. It's not about being used.
Right.
Okay. And you don't use that to figure, well, maybe the person will use me at first and then learn to like me. Doesn't work. Because the person who would legitimately like you wouldn't answer an ad or a profile that's all about how somebody wants to be used.
Okay.
So you don't talk about how much money you make and what you can do and what you can offer. You talk about why it's important to you. So the guy gave the example, I can help you write a CV. Well, why is writing CV important to you? Is it part of your profession? Do you enjoy helping people connect with their passions?
Right.
Do you enjoy helping the right person get their right career? Do you like talking to people to find out what's really important to them? Those are the things that matter more than the fact that you can help somebody with a resume.
We've had a text come in, Frank, to 514-800, a woman saying, I've been in a relationship with the same man for 5 years. We have had fights, and when we do, he went off with when we did, he went off with other women. Meanwhile, I've stayed monogamous. I feel it's not fair. Does this relationship still have a chance?
I think the question I would have for you, and I mean, just based on this question, I don't have an answer for you as to whether or not this relationship will survive. It depends on a couple of things. First of all, why, if you're unhappy with the situation, what is it that's keeping the two of you together? You know, what brought the two of you together? Number two, what is it that you're fighting about so much?
Right.
Because him going off to be with other people, what I don't know is he intending to leave you and then he hooks up with somebody else thinking that this is going to be his new partner and that doesn't work out and he's coming back? Or is he doing this with the intent of saying, oh yeah, well, you got me mad, well, I'm going to go punish you by doing this? I don't know, and I can't start making guesses. Here's what I would suggest. I would suggest that this is a little bit beyond my scope. I think that this couple needs to go to a marriage counselor. And the questions to ask are, Number one, why are you staying in this relationship? What is the value of this relationship? And number two, what are the things you're fighting about? Because if you're fighting about the fact that he went with somebody else and he's going back out with somebody else again, the two of you sound like you're trapped in some kind of repeating behavior pattern that you're both maybe addicted to in terms of the emotional range. I don't know.
Right.
But you got to give me more information here for me to predict whether or not this is going to last.
It also sounds like she needs to take care of herself, right, Frank? Like it sounds like she's letting him sort of have his way, if you will.
Well, with that said, if she's a monogamous-minded person, if monogamy is her thing, then her going out to do the same thing that he's doing, that might be emotionally damaging for her. I would never push a monogamous person.
No, and I'm not suggesting that, but I mean, I think she needs to put herself first, like as in taking, like if he's going out and dating other women and that's not what she wants,
then she has to ask herself, why did she pursue this guy to begin with? Because it doesn't sound like this is something that's brand new. It sounds like this is
5 years. 5 years.
Okay, so it's been going on for 5 years. Well, after 5 years, why would you have stayed? Those are the questions I have, because if you don't answer these questions, the one thing I can absolutely guarantee you, it's going to happen again.
Right. So she needs to ask herself some questions. Like she needs to ask herself, what am I doing? Why am I putting up with this?
What do I want? Stayed around 5 years. Now, you stick around the first year and you say, look, I want to keep working at this. 5 years into it and you're still having the same fights and the same pattern. If you don't figure out why you got into that situation to begin with for 5 years, the next relationship is going to be the same thing.
Okay.
People will repeat behavior patterns until the pattern gets broken. Breaking a pattern requires some level of self-actualization. I think this couple needs marriage counseling. Okay, excellent. If you'd like to reach Frank, again, he's here till 11 o'clock, 514-800 by text and 514-790-0800 by phone. Frank, a message has come in with regards to online dating profiles. Okay. And, we were talking about that just a little bit before, wanting to know, what should you put in an online dating profile? And it's funny that we're getting this because, I've sort of been around some friends, and you sort of help each other, right? With, writing things. And I remember talking one of my friends, out of her tree because she was like writing this like 400-page book. I'm like, you can't put all of that in there. Like you're going to scare somebody away. So what in your opinion are some of the key points you would put in an online dating profile? Okay, when I go through an online dating profile with one of my clients to help them come up with something, I'm looking at addressing the emotional needs of men and women. So let me start off by saying, in an online profile, one of the first things you have to put in, whatever you think is the biggest reason why people would not date you. Because you don't want to be in a position where you are fielding a number of messages from someone and then saying, oh, by the way, this is my situation. Figuring that, well, the majority of people might reject me. Okay, you know what? Here's a better idea, okay? Include it in your original profile. So that way, instead of having to meet somebody and then get rejected, those people just wouldn't contact you at all. So that when you do get your contacts, and look, there's going to be a few less contacts. When you do get people messaging you, they already know about that one thing that has been turning everybody off, and they're okay with it. Now you're in a position where you make the most of your time together. Right. So that's one thing I would recommend putting into a profile. If you have something that you're thinking, oh my God, no one's going to want to date me if they find out, well, profiles online for online dating tend to be anonymous. It's not your real name. Yeah. Go ahead and put it in there. If somebody is okay with it, you know that you have already weeded out everybody else that would have rejected you. Okay. Don't try to just cast a big net and attract everybody, because then if you attract everybody, you still have to weed out the people who are going to reject you in that process anyway. You want to cut through all that. What you want is to be able to say, so pick whatever it is that you say, if people knew this, they wouldn't want to date me. Include that in your profile. Also make it clear you are looking to date someone. If you're looking for a relationship, that you're looking to find someone to connect with a relationship, the worst thing you can do in any profile is really to say, well, yeah, I am looking to date, but I'm really happy the way I am, and I'm really happy alone, and I have a really full life, and my family comes first. And well, then why would I take a chance on you? Right. Why? You're already pushing people away with that kind of a profile. You want to stay single, don't do online dating. Right. Okay? You have to make it clear. I'm here to meet someone, and by the way, If we're connecting online for, let's say we're emailing back and forth for a week, we have to meet in person within 7 days, and make that clear. We also have to be very careful about what's called catfish.
Right.
People putting up fake profiles, and their goal is to lure you into an emotional relationship online with somebody you've never met to eventually extract money from you.
Wow. Okay.
And there's a lot of that going on, folks.
And Frank, again, we're coming up against the traffic break, but if you can sort of quickly answer this. I remember speaking to a friend of mine several months back, and she wanted to sort of be very expressive in her online dating profile. Like, I want to tell them that I don't want games and I don't want this. And I'm like, if you're putting that on there where you don't want games, you don't want this, you don't want liars, like, everybody, I think, doesn't want that. Like, do you feel that's like a negative, putting it out there? I felt it was negative, and I told her she should take it down. I don't know. That was my position.
Talk about what you have to offer.
Okay.
It's understood that you don't want someone who plays games. You don't want someone who lies. It's understood. What we need to know is, what are the consequences if the person does turn out to be that way? For example, the type of person who says, I don't want someone who plays games, may very well stay longer than they should in relationships with people who play games. If, however, you put something like this in your profile, I want to stay positive. However, if I find out that you are playing games or you're lying to me, no matter what we've established together, I will walk away from you. And make sure that you stick to your boundaries.
Okay.
If there was one thing that I could tell everybody out there how to protect themselves from a manipulator, stick to your rules. If your rule is, I find out that this person is doing something underhanded that I don't want to be a part of, I'm going to walk, and make sure you walk if that's your rule. And people who are manipulators, they test you.
Okay.
They test you to see, and it could be something as simple as, they may ask you on the date just quietly, do you kiss on a first date? If you say no, but you still kiss them on a first date, they know you don't follow your rules. You're a target.
You're listening to Passion here on CJAD.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Bettito on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Good evening. Kelly Alexander sitting in for Dr. Lori on Passion all this week here on CJD. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it very much. My special guest tonight, relationship coach Frank Kermit. Now, Frank, we actually had a text come in over the break to 514-800, and it sounds really important, so I want to get to it right away. I've been with my wife for 15 years. We have 2 beautiful children together. She's a great mom, and she does everything for the kids, but I feel that she doesn't love me as much as before. We don't fight and we don't argue. Is it sane to stay together for the kids?
Yes, stay together, not just for the kids, but the fact is you don't have a bad marriage, but it may be a little bit stalled. So my direct advice to you, don't let your wife mother you. If you want to rekindle the sparks, anytime she's doing something for you that you should be doing for yourself, she's mothering you. That's killing the attraction.
Oh.
Don't forget, after 15 years of being in a routine and taking care of the kids, everybody's tired. And they may still adore each other, but they don't have time to show it. Don't let her mother you. And try to date her like you did when you first courted her. Do the things for her that you used to do that drove the attraction up.
And he sounds, just by the way he wrote this text, he loves her. She's a great mom. She does everything for the kids.
If he did not love her, he wouldn't be trying to save his marriage, which is exactly what he's trying to do now. And the marriage, I don't see the marriage as being in trouble.
Yeah.
But I can understand that position.
It's like in a holding pattern, kind of?
It's in a holding pattern, but it's a good holding pattern. And I can tell you this, nobody has ever walked into my office and said, when I walked away from a half-decent marriage that was having some problems, and all of the problems that my kids ended up going through because they're now susceptible to more acts of abuse, they're now more likely to end up in therapy, more trouble in school. Nobody has ever come to me and said, yeah, it was worth the breakup. My kids being in trouble like that was worth it. It's never worth it. Work it out. You can do this. Work it out.
Excellent. Again, you still have some time to reach Frank at 514-790-0800 by phone and 514-800 by text. Frank, you had another message come in to Facebook?
Yeah, got one here from the United States of America. How to tell a friends with benefits that you don't wish to continue the sex. And your thoughts about whether or not we can still stay friends without the benefits. The whole point about friends with benefits is that you're friends who have sex, and it's understood from the beginning that this is a time-limited dynamic. As long as you never acted like a couple in public, yes, you can continue to be friends. You will feel lonely. You may feel the pull to call the person. Don't do it. Move on. And that's the key. Friends with benefits should be a secret relationship, and none of your friends should know who your past friends with benefits are, who your current friends with benefits is. If you're able to keep your mouth shut, yes, you can stay friends. If you've gone ahead and told a bunch of people about it, it's going to be more difficult, not just because of the dynamic between the two of you, but your entire social circle gets involved.
Another text has come in to 514-800. I'm 25. I've been single for 3 years. I've been on dates, but no one seems good enough. I feel like every girl wants to be with me because I've done well for myself with regards to having a good job and having a house and being stable. Frank?
When you're saying that nobody's good enough, here's the old adage. When your standards are higher than your skill level to be able to enter into a relationship, usually that represents some sort of fear of intimacy.
Wow, okay.
Okay, when someone says, well, my standards are up here and nobody's good enough, if your standards are that high, then that's got to mean that you're able to attract that quality person. But if you're telling me that quality person does not exist, and you're not doing everything you can in your power to get to that person, that represents some kind of fear of intimacy. I can definitely help with this. If you want to give me a call, we'll do some coaching. We got to get to the root of this. And more importantly, we just have to change some of your behavior patterns so that you get out there and date. Even if the person that wants to go out with you is not perfect, the experience of dating is more valuable than just picking the particular person to date. Because through the process of dating, you really do find out what it is you don't like, what you want, what you don't want, and it helps you become a better partner to your future long-term partner.
514-800 by text and 514-790-0800 by phone. Frank, I did want to get into something that we talked about off the top, which is top dating resolutions for 2016. Can you go over some of them? I know that one of them on your list here is stop dating married cheaters.
Okay, this comes directly from members of my client base. If somebody is married and they're cheating on their spouse and wanting to date you, that's the sign that you don't date them. And it's unfortunate that people keep getting stuck right back into that.
Do you think, Frank, like with regards to that the person always thinks, I'm the one. They won't do it to me. They won't cheat on me. Like they might hate their wife, but I'm going to be their person. Like, do they talk themselves into that?
I think it's more than just that kind of denial. People who date married cheaters, they themselves have their own issues of fear of intimacy.
Okay.
Because once that married cheater gets divorced and becomes single and available to date, all those people on the side don't want to date them anymore.
Okay.
There's something deeper going on there.
Now, your second one is date someone that is not your type. What does that mean?
Okay, let's say you keep going after a certain type of person, but it's not working out and you're still alone. Well, just because you're attracted to someone doesn't automatically mean that they're going to be the best relationship partner for you. New Year's resolution, date someone who's not your type. You never know.
I think this third one is amazing. Do not go back to your ex.
Wow. One of the questions I was asked once was, why do people go back to their exes? And the answer is, it's just easier. Okay, it's cold out there, folks.
Right.
And going out and dating somebody new, it's a challenge. And for people who are not comfortable with that, oh my goodness, it's overwhelming. So they just figure, well, I had the ex and maybe things weren't as bad as I thought. And look, if you broke up, okay, there has to be a reason you broke up. And unless that reason is completely eradicated, you're probably going to break up again.
Frank, I do want to go back to the texting line at 514-800 because our texter from before, Mr. 25-year-old single man, writes back and says, what do you suggest for me to do to get out there with regards to online dating? So it sounds like he wants to try.
Okay, the first thing you have to do is that here's a rule for you to adopt, okay? Everybody gets one date. Everybody gets an opportunity to sweep you off your feet. So don't reject people too quickly. Everybody gets an opportunity to sweep you off your feet. And number two, your job is to be able to communicate what you're looking for in a life partner. And it has to be realistic. Because if your expectations are not realistic, even the best possible partner is going to dump you.
Okay. And should he maybe go with a bit of an attitude of not being so judgy right away? Like just sort of going with the flow a little?
Well, it depends on what his criteria is.
Okay.
I don't want to say just go with the flow and he ends up with somebody that's completely horrible for him.
But I guess my point is like, I don't know if you can, I mean, yes, I think we all have expectations of who we want to be with, but if you're like, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, no one's going to reach that. You know what I mean?
Unless your criteria is incredibly realistic. When he said nobody's ever lived up to my standards, that's when I have to say, are his standards realistic? Because standards are standards, and if you're telling me that you've been trying to date for a long time and you've never met even one person that meets up to your standards, there's something wrong here. That does not make sense. Sorry, folks, that's just not the reality.
Frank, we're almost out of time, so you've got about 30 seconds to answer this, but another text to 514-800. I've gained 80 pounds over my 20-year marriage. My wife has told me she needs me to lose weight because she's no longer attracted. This seems shallow and abnormal to me. Love is love, correct?
Love is love, but sexual attraction is sexual attraction. My advice to you is, look, just for your own health, you should probably get into shape. And just so you know, I'm an over 400-pound man. And the issue is not my body, but how I make women feel. And the number one rule that I said earlier today, stop her from mothering you. When she's doing something for you that you could do for yourself, halt the mothering instinct. That'll turn her back into your lover.
Frank Kermit, thank you so much. That is, again, Frank, dating and relationship coach here on CJAD on Passion. You can check him out, franktalks.com. My name is Kelly Alexander, in for Dr. Laurie all week long here on Passion. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night on the show, where we get to speak to psychologist and sexologist Dr. Mark Rivart for Trouble Tuesdays. So make sure you get ready to text tomorrow night and call us. We'd love to try and help you out. My thanks to Brian Calasar. Coming up after the news, it's Joey Elias right here on CJAD.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.